Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I feel so humbled and honored to be your guest today. My name is Melissa Chlupach, and I am an assistant professor at the University of Alaska Anchorage in the Dietetics and Nutrition program. And my passion is in traditional Indigenous foods. And I will always be a student and take things in. So I'm so excited to share what we are doing in Alaska. And I hope to learn from you as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen with you. And all right, here we go. All right. And are you folks online able to see my screen? Perfect. All right. So the Alaska Traditional Foods Movement, as we begin this presentation, I want to note that I am non-Indigenous, and the experiences that I'm going to share are experiences throughout my life and throughout my career. And I also want to acknowledge the land that I live and work on. I live and work on the Dena'ina Ethnena land in Alaska, and it is, I think we should always recognize the land that we are residing on. And I grew up on this land too, so I am very humbled, and I've learned a lot throughout my, I won't tell you my age, throughout my however many years I am. And so if you've ever, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this link, but wherever you're at in the world, you can acknowledge the land that you're on as well. So a little bit about Alaska. We are the largest state in the United States. And as you can see, we are very remote and have a lot of remote villages here that you can only access by plane or by water. And so that's how product is transported to these areas. And of course, that's very weather dependent. And our largest towns are Fairbanks and Anchorage, Anchorage being our largest urban area. We have very small stores in our rural areas. Some are private and some are larger companies, like this AC store in Kotzebue, and then this is Dillingham, and they sell a variety of things. And as we all know, prices are increasing, right? Gas has been astronomical, and now our food is rising as well. So this, some of these pictures are from a year to 2 years ago. So just imagine what prices are like in some of these areas now. So like the 16.5-pound whole ribeye is almost $300. This is now considered a traditional food, pilot bread, obviously a colonized food, but just one box is almost $9. Although we promote breastfeeding, just a can of Similac is over $30. So that just gives you an idea. Fresh fruit, this watermelon doesn't even look that great, but a half or a quarter watermelon at $6 a pound. Ugh. And I'm sure you can, you know the feeling as well, being in remote areas, that those prices in your stores are just as astronomical. So it's very important that we promote traditional Indigenous foods. And in Alaska, it really varies from region to region, but these foods are the foods that are not only nutrient dense, but they are comforting. They're part of the culture. They're spiritual. They're a way of life. And they provide a sense of home if you're away from home. They just, they make you feel so good, right? So I want you to close your eyes. Now, if you are driving, don't close your eyes, all right? Just think about what I'm gonna bring up. So close your eyes and think about a food that brings comfort to you. Now imagine that food. Imagine the smell of that food, the taste of that food. As you're eating your food, where are you? And who is with you? Did you harvest that food yourself? If you did, who were you with? Were you with your auntie? Were you with your kids? And as you eat this food, did you help prepare this food? Were you with your Anna? Now imagine your food in a hospital. Can it be in a hospital? Is it served in a hospital that you're aware of? Is it served in a long-term care facility? Is it served in schools? So in a hospital, as we know, there are constant interruptions, right? There are things beeping and we have no control over anything. So food is very important to us. Again, it's not just about the nutrients. It's about that comfort, that feeling of home, right? So do you think your foods can be offered in hospitals, long-term care facilities, schools, assistance programs? Well, guess what? They can. However, there are some regulations, and I know that can be a bad word. I get it. But these regulations are about safety. Like for Alaska, there are some foods that, although very cultural and we respect the culture, there are some foods that have shown that have, say, a high incidence of botulism. So if they're offered in a hospital to a population that has their immune systems compromised, that can be a little scary. But we figured out some ways around some of these regulations, not ways around the regulations, but ways that we can get a variance for these regulations. So in Alaska, we have the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation Food Code. And for, gosh, well over a decade, maybe even at least 2 decades, we have had verbiage about donating traditional foods in our food code. Of course, they must be whole, gutted, gilled, or in quarters without further processing, just because as we further process, there's potential for cross-contamination. There are some prohibited food items, like for instance, seal oil. That is a food that is widely asked for on menus in hospitals and long-term care facilities, but unfortunately, it has a high rate of botulism. But keep seal oil in mind, okay? Because I'm going to mention that a little bit later. And in the 2014 Farm Bill, the federal government finally caught up with Alaska and said, you know what, let's put verbiage about donating traditional foods in the Farm Bill. And this verbiage is fairly similar to what Alaska has in their food code. So foods may be served in any child nutrition program, hospitals, clinics, and so forth. Now, we are currently finishing up the 2018 Farm Bill, and the traditional foods verbiage was not put in that food code. Now we're looking at the 2023 Farm Bill, right? And I don't foresee the verbiage being put back into the Farm Bill, but that's okay, don't worry, because it is currently in the US Code under Title 25 Indians, Chapter 18 Indian Healthcare. And really, I I think Congress has many other things to think about. I feel like this verbiage will be in the US Code for many, many years to come. So, which is very exciting to have this. And so we can offer traditional foods in our facilities. So in Anchorage, we have the municipality of Anchorage, and we have to follow their food code. And they finally caught up to what the Alaska DEC had said in their food code. So because verbiage is very difficult to understand in the food code, several organizations got together and put together a traditional food poster and toolkit. And so what we can donate, what we're not allowed to donate, and how we can accept these donations in various healthcare settings and senior programs and schools. Now, I can't wait to share these because there are amazing things happening up here, and I know you have amazing things happening where you're at too. But this is what's happening in Alaska in terms of healthcare at the Alaska Native Medical Center in Anchorage. So going back, Alaska has 229 federally recognized tribes. That's almost half of the federally recognized tribes in the United States. And the Alaska Native Medical Center serves all of those federally recognized tribes. So we have different cultures, different foods, right? So the hospital and the Food and Nutrition Services program tries to look at ways to implement these foods into the patient menu. Helps with healing, helps with comfort, right? Helps with quality of life. So the team there, and my very good friend and colleague, executive chef Amy Foote, has I helped start this program. I left to be a professor, and she's just taken this program beyond my wildest dreams. So she has worked with vendors, looked at donations, harvesting. She's even taken her team out for harvesting. We have a farm through the Alaska Pacific University that they've been working with and doing some experiments with. And so they've really thought outside of the box, looked at harvesting like spruce tips and dandelions and lots of different berries. We have the Alaska Moose Salvage Program, also known as the Roadkill Program, that ANMC has received a moose from. And Chef Amy has developed a great rapport with the Alaska Professional Hunter Association and received many, many donations from hunters and guides in Alaska. Looking at vendors, so say maybe you're familiar with Cisco, really big companies like Cisco or US Foods. Amy has worked with her reps in how she can procure traditional foods through them, because traditional foods, as you know, are seasonal, okay? And depending and each season varies from year to year, right? Some, we get a great amount of berries, and other years it's not so great. So we have to look at other ways. What can we purchase? And so she's been able to find fiddlehead ferns and beach asparagus and bones and fish heads and lots of different items. So again, thinking about and working with people, collaborating with people. So they have received traditional foods from all of these different places, rural areas in Alaska. So everybody cares. Everybody wants to see patients and their families heal at the Alaska Native Medical Center. And so they have received many deer, moose, salmon, whitefish, hooligan, plants and berries, and even some local fare as well, like rhubarb and crab apples. So throughout the last several years, they have received over 13.5 tons of donations. 13.5 tons. That's amazing, right? So just, it really, really warms my heart that the patients are being taken care of. And here are some example pictures: moose, caribou, deer meat that have been donated. Here's Chef Amy right here. Herring eggs, and these little guys just pop in your mouth. At first, when I first tried them, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And they're delicious. The taste of the sea. Seal meat. So this here is our first, this was a celebration around our first seal donation. And this gentleman, Raymond Sensmeyer from Yakutat in Southeast Alaska, gave the blessing. And we were all crying. He had waited 30 years for this to happen. So it felt so good to be able to help his people. Wild Alaska salmon, fiddlehead ferns, and beach asparagus. I don't know. Are your mouths watering? Because I am really hungry, and I think for you right now, it's probably about lunchtime. Crab apples and fireweed, and Amy and I have had our littles help out in the harvesting as well, keeping the youth involved. So as you can tell, they've had a lot of fun. So serving a menu of traditional foods heal our patients. And so you can tell this patient here, she's trying the herring egg salad. She's not sure because, non-Indigenous people, what do we know about herring egg salad and preparing her foods, right? Well, look at that. She is in love and so happy to be having her foods. You can tell she is healing right there, and it heals us at the same time. Caring during COVID. Oh, COVID, I'm so tired of hearing that word. I'm sure you are too. And Amy and her team really got creative and had traditional Tuesday and fishy Friday. And yes, we love our sweet treats. So they had sweet treat Saturday as well. Now, moving to long-term care, I'm going to look at Kotzebue, Alaska in Northwest Alaska. And in October, gosh, I can't believe it's been 12 years now, that the Manilik Association opened an 18-bed long-term care facility called Utukanat Inat, a place for elders. And prior to this, they had a senior care center. Now at the senior care center, they didn't really have any regulations, but with long-term care facilities, we have a lot more regulations and a lot more inspections. So they weren't able at first to offer traditional foods to the elders, and the elders really, really wanted their foods. So there were a lot of meetings with a lot of different organizations, the USDA, CMS, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, the Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game, everyone was involved. How can we offer traditional foods to the patients or to the elders at the long-term care facility? Well, the DEC, so the state and the state surveyor said, let the tundra be considered the elder's garden. Any kitchen with a DEC kitchen permit could receive traditional game directly. Well, this was exciting. So the Sigluk was born. Manilik built a traditional foods processing facility, and Sigluk is an Inupiaq name meaning ice cellar or cold storage. And it's almost 8 years old now, and you can see here the grand opening. And this is Leslie Wheelock here, a former director of tribal relations for the USDA, along with Cyrus Harris, who runs the Hunter Support Program and the Sigluk. He is a gem. I don't know if you ever meet someone and you just know their aura is just, he is a phenomenal man. So this was the beginning of offering traditional foods to the elders at Utukanat Inat. And here are some pictures of the Sigluk. And here's Cyrus holding a package of muskox. Now, there are some on their policy, some items that through the state are allowed, but on their policy aren't allowed, like seal at Manila or at Utu Kanat Inat. So they have a special Nikapak potluck where they can offer seal. And here I'm helping take off the blubber from the seal, because they take the blubber and they render it to seal oil. And seal oil is one of the best sources of omega-3 fatty acids. So taking a look at schools real quick, I know we don't have a lot of time, but the schools try to offer as many we do have the Fish to School program, and where we receive donations through our commercial fleets, and those fish go to the schools. So I believe, let's see, in Sitka, in Southeast Alaska, they offer fish on Wednesdays as a part of their school lunch program. And also some of the school districts have received a donation of moose from the salvage program, and they make it into a learning part of the learning process where they dress out the moose and learn the anatomy, the biology, and then look at the cuts and look at recipes and prepare things themselves and are able to eat what they've prepared. Food assistance programs. The Food Bank of Alaska has done a phenomenal job. They have the Help Meet the Need program, where they welcome gifts of moose and caribou and deer and sheep and so forth. And hunters can donate meat to the Food Bank of Alaska, and they take it to a commercial processor where they have it processed into 1 pound ground meat packages, because it's a lot easier to transport and, for hungry families to use. And then we have a local air cargo, Northern Air Cargo, that transports the meat from Anchorage or to Anchorage from rural locations free of charge. So that's huge. And we are very thankful for the collaborations that we have in the state. Now, I told you a little bit ago to remember seal oil, right? Seal oil is Alaska's condiment, and it's a prohibited food item. Well, why am I bringing it up? Well, again, it's one of the widely asked foods on menus. So Manilik developed a seal oil project, and they wanted to look at how they could offer seal oil safely to their elders at Utu Kanat Inat. Do you think the state was into this? Do you think they were like, yeah, go ahead, we're all in support? Or do you think they were like, no, let's, I don't think so? Well, guess what? The state of Alaska was all in support of Manilik studying this and being able to offer seal oil to the elders. This project took many, many years, many researchers as well, researchers from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which is in the interior of Alaska, and then a gentleman, Dr. Eric Johnson, from the University of Wisconsin, who focuses his research specifically on botulism. Again, it took many years, but guess what? Through a heat treatment process. Now, this isn't the heat treatment for Manilik, for the Kotzebue area, is not a traditional method of rendering seal oil. They have it in a bucket and they stir it every once in a while for, I think it's about a couple of weeks. But that method wasn't quite there in terms of having a safe method, but it was almost there. So they took their traditional rendering process and added kind of a pasteurization, a heat treatment, and that was the ticket. And so they worked on a variance with the state of Alaska and are now able to offer seal oil to the elders at Utu Kanat Inat. So there are a variety of resources available. We have the Alaska Resource Center for Alaska Native Elders, and Alaska Native chef Flora Deacon, just an amazing woman, has done put together a lot of recipes and had help with infographics as well. So I've included, hopefully you'll be able to access the link through the Alaska Traditional Kitchen. And many more. The state of Alaska has a traditional foods page as well. The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium has traditional food guides. If you're ever on YouTube, I highly recommend searching Store Outside Your Door. There are many webisodes looking at different traditional foods and combining them with different fruits and vegetables, and even foods from assistance programs like FDIPR. So lots of cool stuff. I nerd out and go down rabbit trails, to be honest. More traditional food guides from various regions of the state. And here's a drum that looks at food security, and then in the handle we have food sovereignty. Okay. And then of course, the CDC has some resources, and I love including this from the First Nations people of Canada, a manual for healthy eating or healthy practices, looking at food safety. But you know what? The best resources we have are our elders, right? It's important to sit and listen to those stories and just take it in. We can learn so much from our elders, right? Oh. So as we come to a close, I want to read this quote from the Traditional Food Guide for Alaska Native Cancer Survivors. Happiness is healing. Elders need to taste the food they've grown up on so they can feel good about themselves again. It's a healing thing. So thank you again. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I was to be invited to do this. Yeah, I'm speechless, to be honest. And then here, I don't know if you're able to see my contact information, but I think you might be able to. So here's my contact information. You'll be able to feel free to contact me. And if you're ever on Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media, please hashtag Traditional Foods Heal and Traditional Foods Heal our patients. So thank you, everyone. And I'll stop share.
Great.
All right.
Not too much feedback here. Is this on?
How about now?
A little bit, there's still some, oh yeah. You can put questions in the chat if you want, or whichever. I'm flexible.
Let me try here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that worked. All right,
Yeah.
makes sense. So I want to thank you so much for, giving us some information. My name is LaDawn Yazzie. I'm Navajo. I work here in the Pueblo of San Ildefonso. We are really trying to make sure that we're informing individuals and informing the community of some of the impacts and some of the initiatives that are taking place all over, the United States with different communities. And I wanted these lists of podcasts to serve as inspiration, motivation to take that initiative, or even just to get an idea of what communities could bring back traditionally, culturally, but also to open their eyes and see that other people are moving forward, going back to their roots, going back to their culture, kind of tapping into those resources that are there in our community. That was the purpose, and I really appreciate that we were able to, or I was able to see you at the Food and Nutrition Conference, and I'm glad that Kelly Begay connected us. Yesterday we talked with Sharon from Hawaii. Yeah, so tomorrow we have another individual from North Dakota kind of talking with us, but there's so much that I really appreciated taking and gleaning from the Food and Nutrition Conference. And I wanted to bring that here because I'm not familiar with what takes place. I'm not familiar, and it gets me excited to try to tap into those traditional cultural foods that we could kind of work with, or we could study and bring back to the table. But yeah, I don't know how much time we have. We only have 40 minutes. This will be broadcast, it will be shared on YouTube, but we did our best to make adjustments, but we're here. And yeah, I hope we can connect later down the road and continue these conversations, informing individual people.
You bet. And, I've met a lot of people that are unsure, that really want to implement traditional foods programs. And you know what? It can be done. It doesn't have to be big and extravagant. You can start small. It could be a traditional Tuesday, at a facility or school. The important thing too is to get support from the community, from those around you, and that really, really helps moving forward. And I was able, in a previous job, I was able to work with the San Carlos Apache tribe, which is, the foods are way different than here in Alaska. So I learned a lot. I met Chef Nephi Craig and Twyla Cassador through that, helping out there. And I know they were working on implementing a traditional foods program there at the hospital. I'm not sure how far along they got, but they were utilizing Twyla and Nephi, and just those two are just gems as well. So I feel very fortunate to have met these beautiful, amazing people.
And so, yeah, I think we have about 2 minutes. Maybe we're going to get kicked off, but once again, I'm thankful that you're able to bring this knowledge and conversation together. You've been on the reservation in San Carlos, and then you're also bringing another wealth of knowledge. So I felt like you have the best of two worlds to bring and to share going forward. So I want to invite you back when we decide to have this conversation again. I really love to learn more. Yeah, so thank you again. Before we get cut off, I'd like to, I can open up for questions, but we'll be in touch. And if we have any questions, we'll share them with you through email and we'll get those questions answered. Great.
Thank you so much. And I am excited to work with you in the future. So
thank you. I can't see this. Oh, this is a challenge.